What's going on to all my movie fans out there and Ghostbusters fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new early movie review, and today we'll be breaking down a very big film, part of a very beloved franchise. We're talking about Ghostbusters Afterlife, a film I got the opportunity to check out early the other night, and I'm really excited to let you all know what I thought about the film and let you know if it's worth checking out, all in this spoiler-free review. Before we break it all down, do me a favor and check me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you all can get the alert from when I drop new content. If you enjoyed this spoiler-free review of Ghostbusters Afterlife, well, make sure to like and share the review. It really helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate all the support. And in those comments, for all my movie fans, Ghostbusters fans out there, let me know how excited you were for this film. But more importantly, once you've seen it, what'd you think about it? Let's talk about your pros. What'd you think of the new characters, the story, the direction? Do you want to see more from this franchise? And let's talk about some of your criticisms. Were you disappointed? Were you not invested in the story? Do you not want to see more? Let's talk about it all in the comments below. But also, since we're talking about 3 films in the main continuity, I'm not counting 2016 because that's not part of the canon, but out of the 3 Ghostbusters films that we now have on our docket, what's your rankings? Let's talk about it in the comments below. So for me personally, I was pretty excited about this film. This is coming from, I'm a fan of the IP, I'm a fan of the Ghostbusters, but I'm not a diehard fan. But I did take it upon myself to watch the first 2 Ghostbusters. I love the first Ghostbusters. The second one, not so much. Still love the characters, but not a big fan of that second film. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about my excitement level for this third one. I was really excited for it. Love the trailers. Carrie Coon, who was part of the best, one of the best shows of all time, and Leftovers. Big fan of Mckenna Grace. Big fan of Wolfhard, Paul Rudd. Jason Reitman's a great director. I was really looking forward to this one, guys. I was very excited for it. What did I think about it? Starting off my positives, let's talk about the man behind the camera who also wrote this film, in Jason Reitman, the son of Ivan Reitman, who directed the first 2 Ghostbusters and many great films in his career. He did a pretty impossible job. He did what Mike Flanagan did with Dr. Sleep a couple years ago, which I love that film, and I love The Shining. What Mike Flanagan was able to do and pay an homage to the first Shining, to pay homage to the book while telling a story from a book, telling his own narrative, is essentially what Jason Reitman did for this film. This is a very beloved franchise, and I thought that he did a perfect job of playing in the realm of nostalgia of the first 2 Ghostbusters, more so in the first Ghostbusters, but at the same time pushing the narrative forward, world building, opening up the world more, introducing us to some characters. That's the thing about Ghostbusters. To me personally, I love the characters. Even if I'm not a fan of the second Ghostbusters, I still love these characters, and I love these new characters that they introduce, as well as, without spoiling things, bringing back some, a couple characters that we may have seen in the past 2 films. I'll just kind of leave it at that. But I thought Jason Reitman he knew what he was doing, man. I thought that he did what you're going to hear a lot of fan service when it comes to this film. I thought that he did fan service right. He didn't rely on the fan service. He just knew how to implement it in the story without heavily laying in, hey, remember this, remember that, hey. He knew how to put in the fan service while still moving the story forward with telling his own story. So I thought that Jason Reitman did a great job. And again, whether it's this film, Tully, Juno, Up in the Air, this man's a great director. And just knowing that he was on the set with his dad making the first 2, you can tell that the man has some Ghostbusters in his vein. And I thought he did a great job if you're a diehard fan, you will not be disappointed in the direction of what he does with the story. Which brings me to, again, I talk about the love of these characters and the love of these new characters, starting off with even like smaller characters such as like Carrie Coon, who's essentially the Dana of this story. She's the mom of our 2 leads with Finn Wolfhard and Mckenna Grace. She's a mom we've seen before. She's cool, relaxed. She's not all into the business of her kids. A very stereotypical mom with money issues, who has to move her family out to this farm. She just learned that her dad, which isn't a spoiler, this is in the trailer, is Egon, and she has to inherit this farm that he left behind, and not knowing who her father was. So very stereotypical on the paper type of character, but Carrie Coon brings something unique to the role. Again, I love her as an actress. If you haven't seen Leftovers, I can't stress enough, it's one of the best shows of all time. But I love her in this movie. But it was her chemistry, not only with her kids, but her chemistry with the world's sexiest man out there in Paul Rudd, who plays Gary, the scientist, who is the summer school teacher. It's just so great. I love Paul Rudd, man. It's the charm, it's the charisma. He is almost like kind of the pseudo version of Lewis in the first 2 Ghostbusters. And when you see the film, you know exactly why I'm referring to him as that character. But I really enjoy Paul Rudd, and his chemistry with everyone, but he was fantastic. So our 2 main adults in the film was great, but the kids, man. Starting off with, I want to talk about this young man who goes by the name of Podcast, played by Logan Kim, who this is my first time being introduced to Logan. This little kid, you talk about charm and charisma and landing the jokes. I don't know, the kid looks like he's no older than 9 or 10 years old. He was funny, man. And collectively speaking, comedy is very subjective. But my theater, whenever that kid laid in a joke, he's a podcaster, believing in the supernatural. I thought that young man was fantastic. But his chemistry, his back and forth with the lead of this movie, which seriously, let's talk about Mckenna Grace. She can't be no older than 15, and everything I've seen her in, whether it's small roles like Sabrina, Captain Marvel, she was fantastic in Hunting on Hill House. She was great in Gifted with Chris Evans. Listen to this. She is a 15-year-old girl given the task of carrying and introducing it to a new audience. I'm talking about the Ghostbusters franchise, while having the older audience accept her as the lead. She did a great job. She stole the movie from me, which speaks so highly to, again, I talked about Carrie Coon, Paul Rudd. There's a couple other legendary actors in this movie, and she was able to hold her own. That speaks so highly of the bright future that she has. But as the character, oh yeah, she is Egon's daughter, granddaughter, I should say. She has the wit of Egon, the intelligence, the intellect, the sarcasm of Egon, while still being her own character in her own right. I thought that, again, every time she was on screen, her little jokes, again, how she was able to figure things out, her courage, her hero moments. I thought, again, Mckenna Grace, I can't speak highly enough of that young girl. She has such a bright future, but she absolutely stole this movie. I thought she was fantastic. So again, from the direction, the performances, the narrative in this film, I've, again, just revisited the first two Ghostbusters. Again, love the first one, not a fan of the second one. Something that this film has that, and you might disagree with me in this statement, this has the most heart of any Ghostbuster film I've seen, and an emotional heart, and it's earned, and it has such a great moment in this film without diving too deep into it. Again, we're dealing with the death of Egon and dealing with a real-life death in the actor that passed away, 7 years ago, responsible of the first two Ghostbusters, having Harold having his hand in the screenwriting. But there is a moment in this film that literally left tears in my eyes. This is, without giving too much away, what Star Wars, the new sequels, weren't able to do with having Han and Luke and Leia sharing the screen. This is a crime against that franchise. But I'll just say this, the fact that we were able to see legendary characters share a great moment in this film, and not even being a diehard fan, it meant something to me, which speaks something. Again, when you are a diehard fan of this franchise, there is a moment in this film you will love, and I'll just leave it at that. But what I love about the narrative, besides the family dynamic, the heart that the film has, it's the theme that really shines through with me in this film is there is love to be found in grieving. There's love to be found in death. And again, dealing with the death of Egon, we have Carrie Coon, who didn't know her father. She felt like he left the family behind. We have the two grandkids that didn't know their grandfather, but learning who he is, what he meant to the world with Ghostbusters, and the legacy he carried, and just, again, being able to find love in death was such a beautiful thing that was done beautifully in this movie. So I love the narrative. I love the story. I can go on about the production, the cinematography, great score, great soundtrack. The special effects of the ghosts were just flawless. So really enjoyed this film, but there were some criticisms. Now, I mentioned how I enjoyed the actors and the performances. It is not that I didn't enjoy the performance, but I'm talking about Finn Wolfhard's character as Trevor, the older brother. He, to me, was like the pseudo version of Winston in the first two Ghostbusters, but most so in the first one where he really didn't have that much to do. That's Trevor in this movie. And again, it's not the fault of the actor, who I'm a big fan of, Finn Wolfhard, and again, Stranger Things and all that stuff. He's bringing that fandom to this franchise, which is great, but I just didn't feel like the character had that much to do. Like, he was literally there to drive a car. And I'm jokingly say that, but I just didn't feel like he had the most development as the other characters did. And even his love story that gets thrown in there, it just wasn't as developed as it could have been, in my opinion. Again, there's a lot of characters in here. I just didn't feel like he was the most developed, in my personal opinion, which is a small thing because there's not a lot of faults that I have with this movie. Again, this film is able to play in the realm of giving us nostalgia, giving us great fan service, but I have to say, at points, there were moments where I'm like, wow, that is very, very, very familiar to the franchise, which almost makes it almost too unoriginal for my personal taste, because there's a lot of creative choices and a lot of, original stuff that Jason brings to the story, but I feel like there was a couple points in the film like, literally, this character reminds me of this character. This is literally almost a similar plot to the first one, with obviously some nuances from Jason Reitman's script. So there are moments where I have to say, for me personally, it was almost too familiar, and it was so much originality that the familiar points kind of stood out like a sore thumb, in my personal opinion. So outside of those things, man, I really don't have much negative to say about it. So before I give you all my overall thoughts and my score, if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss any of my future content. Overall, man, Ghostbusters Afterlife put a big smile on my face. It made me laugh. It made me cry. I am not even a diehard fan, but there are moments that I just really resonated with. Again, the story of finding love within death, the story of family, the story of just having a good time, and just having Ghostbusters being brought back in the way it should be was just something good to see, ladies and gentlemen. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Ghostbusters Afterlife a 4 out of 5, which brings me to my personal rankings. Again, this is not no hate of the 2016. It's just, it's not part of canon if you all have seen that film. So based on the 3 Ghostbusters film, this is my second favorite Ghostbusters movie, ladies and gentlemen. And, you know, obviously the first one's my favorite. This one is my second favorite. And number 2, again, I'm not a fan of the film. I like the character, but the film just doesn't work for me. But this new film is number 2 for me personally. But I want to know your rankings once you all see Ghostbusters Afterlife. I want to know your pros, your cons, your thoughts on the characters, the ghost. I want to see more, which is a great thing to see, but do you want to see more? Let's talk about your criticisms and everything in between in the comments below. If you all stuck around to this point in the review, I appreciate every single one of you all. Before you leave, make sure if you haven't already to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell. That way you don't miss any of my future reviews. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, subscribe to my channel, check out my other content. We'll catch you all on the next video.